everyone, and today we're back for another Loomian Legacy Top 5 video. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the top 10 worst PvP Loomians in all of Loomian Legacy. This is going to be the 2025 edition of this list because ever since I made my last top 10 worst PvP Loomians, there were a lot of Loomians that were originally on the list, but are now finally good. Not to mention that there are some new additions to some Loomians that were not on the list before. So, with that out of the way, let's see which Loomians make this list. But before we do that, let's talk about our giveaway Loomian. Yes, we are going to be giving away a rare Loomian. This is an Alpha Xmas Odoyaga that I found in the 2024 Christmas event. Mine air type, hag, not the best UPs, but I can change that before I give this away. And the only thing you'll have to do in order to win this Alpha Xmas Odoyaga is to comment Alpha Xmas Odoyaga in the comment section below. I will eventually give y'all a number, and then within the next couple days, I will stream me spinning the random number generator wheel. And if the wheel lands on your number, you will be the winner of this rare Alpha Xmas Odoyaga. Let's head straight onto this top 10. Number 10 on this list is really going to hurt me because it's Sherbot. Sherbot unfortunately makes the top 10 worst PvP Loomians in the game, but I have some reasons why it is on my list. So, Sherbot is an ice metal type, quite potentially the worst typing in all of Loomian Legacy. There's only one other Loomian that has that typing, and unfortunately it's not on the list, but I will talk about it in honorable mentions. But there are some good stuff about Sherbot. It has a health stat of 69, energy stat of 85, melee defense stat of 97, ranged attack stat of 94, and a speed stat of 76. Those are very mediocre stats. It could be used as a melee defensive Loomian, but the problem is that its defensive typing is very garbage. And the only useful ability it has is the Overcloak ability. Overclock makes it so it doubles its speed while under thunderstorms, meaning it can actually outspeed everything. If you combine that with very smart and specialty goggles, you can hit really hard with its 150 base power out of order, which is tied for the most powerful attack in all of Loomian Legacy. And it probably is the most powerful attack because Complete Demolition has the flaw of not being able for you to click another move, while this one you just have to switch your moves. It also has other moves like Zip Zap, Metal Blast, Jet Stream, Barb, Splitting Headache, Tear Down, Icicle Traps, Deep Freeze, Tase, Tribute, and Burn Up. So it has a lot of moves. But the problem is that this is the only way to even use Sherbot good. All its other sets are just very underwhelming, and if you don't run very smart specialty goggles out of order, it's going to feel very underwhelming, and it's going to miss critical KOs. Not to mention that there are other Loomians, even on this list, that just fulfill its role better. I mean, it has less ranged attack than Cinnamoff and Hydrofraud, who are two Loomians I will talk about later on this list. But the reason why Sherbot is only number 10 and not lower is because it can outspeed stuff in thunderstorms. It does have pivot, has really good coverage as well. Metal Blast can hit all the pesky ice types, and Jet Stream can hit all the pesky fire and brawler types, which you are both quad weak to. Not to mention, out of order legit does a whole lot of damage, and it actually synergizes well on a thunderstorm team because a lot of thunderstorm teams are very weak to common Loomian. So it's very good to have Sherbot as that Loomian to help stabilize thunderstorm teams. Other than that, though, there's really no other role this Loomian can do well, and that's why it's number 10 on this list. Number 9 on this list is going to be Gargleum based. By the way, this is going to be the only roamer that will be on this list. It's an Earth Air type with a health stat of 55, energy stat of 105, both of its attack stats are 120, both of its defense stats are 85, and it has a speed stat of 105. The thing with Gargleum is that it has one of the best move pools in the entire game. I mean, it has pretty much everything. Jet Stream, Landslide, Barbs, Icicle Traps, Return to Sender, Provoke, Slapdown. This Loomian pretty much has everything. Rogue Assault. It has pretty much any move you could possibly think of, both on the melee, range, offense, defense, and support. The problem is that Gargleum base is outclassed by its other 3 Gargleum forms. Its speed form is faster, attack form hits harder, and defense form has more defense. If you want to use a Gargleum form, why wouldn't you just use the other Gargleums? And this is one of only 2 Loomians on this list that is on this list because it's outclassed by other Loomians. Because honestly, Gargleum base by itself is not a bad Loomian. It can actually stand up onto its own. It actually isn't that frail. And with Clutch Plushie Return to Sender, it can catch some surprising KOs. Not to mention, you can kind of run it as a jack-of-all-trades Loomian. You can run it offensively, defensively, and supportively. So, that's something at least, but it just gets outclassed by all the other Gargleums. So, there's kind of no reason to use base form when attack form, defense form, and speed form are right there. The only way Gargleum base would ever get any usage is if any of the Gargleums are banned, which, with Gargleum attack getting a new attacking ability to boost its stats, I mean, it might be banned in the future, meaning Gargleum base might be used, so there is hope for the future. Not to mention that in the past that there were tournaments where Gargleum defense was banned, so I mean, it has had play in tournament play as a Gargleum defense replacement, so I could definitely see it as a Gargleum attack replacement if Gargleum attack ever gets banned. So, yeah, there is hope for the future for Gargleum base, but if any of the other Gargleums are not banned, there's legit no reason to use Gargleum base, and that's why it is number 9 on the list. Number 8 on this list is going to be Ventation. Ventation is a health stat of 90, energy stat of 90, melee defense of 142, ranged attack of 90, and 48 speed. This is a melee tank. This is one of the few bulky waters in this game. And I mean few in quotation marks, because let me just tell you all of the bulky waters that outclass Ventation. Samarine, Cleone, Skimpy, Fishkarna, Barblast, Aklos, and Lumello. And those are some of the lower tier bulky waters. That doesn't even lay a finger on Luminami or Surkambe, two of the most highly used bulky waters in the entire game. And if you are battling any Lumian, any team in ranked, they will almost always have a Surkambe or a Luminami on every single team. If there is Luminami and Surkambe in every single meta, why use Ventation? Even if Luminami and Surkambe is banned, you have Samarine, Cleone, Skimpy, Fishkarna, like, all the other bulky waters outclass it. They either have Pivot, hit extremely hard in return, can poison, place icicle traps, or has a better defensive typing than Ventation. And it's not like Ventation can't have stuff, it can do its role well. It's another one of those Loomians where if you're forced to use Ventation, it will do fine. I mean, it has Sharp Edges, which is a good ability. Also, Protective Shell makes it so it can't get critical hit, which is nice. Battering Ram makes it hit very hard, has Soft Water to heal, has Burn Up, has other stuff as well. Like, it has some really good moves. Geyser as well is like Scald. It's the only Loomian that has Scald in Loomian Legacy, which is really cool. And yeah, it does have some niches compared to other water types, but again, there's no reason to use Ventation when there are like 10 bulky waters that are better than it. That is basically the big problem with Ventation. It's not that it's even bad, it's outclassed. And even if you are forced to use Ventation, it's not going to do as well compared to some of the other bulky waters in all of Loomian Legacy. And that's why Ventation has made the list. But this is the last Loomian on this list that you could consider alright using, but it's just simply outclassed. All of the other Loomians on this list are legit really bad, and even if you are forced to use these next 7 Loomians, they're not going to do anything well, and that's why Ventation is higher than the other 7 Loomians on this list. Number 7 on this list is going to be Knockout. Now, I'm going to be very quick on the Knockout segment because I personally don't want him to knock me out. I mean, look at him. He looks like he wants to beat me up. But let's talk about why this Ancient Brawler type is bad. 106 health, 82 energy, 105 melee attack, 115 melee defense, 74 range defense, and 34 speed. This is a Loomian that could potentially be good under Bane of Haste, but the problem is that its best ability is Watcher, which boosts its strength of its attacks. Now, if Knockout had an ability like Heavy Fist, this Loomian would actually be very good under Bane of Haste because you could set Bane of Haste up, you can hit very hard with Vital Jab, Primal Slash, and Wave Wrecker while setting up a Shadow Box, and you can run the Rageful plushie, go up to +3, and then just sweep teams as a bulky offensive sweeper after a Bane of Haste. Even without Bane of Haste, it can do a lot of damage with Watcher and Vital Jab to keep it alive, but the problem is that its other abilities are garbage. Biscuit makes it so it can't be Driving Force, which whoop-de-doo, who's Driving Forcing a Knockout, and Assertive makes it so your Brawler type attacks can hit Spirit types. You know, something that Primal Slash could already hit for super effective damage, which is just kind of brutal. Other moves it has is Safeguard for doubles, Quick Punch for the assertive ability, and like I said, Bane of Haste. but it's not a very good Bane of Haste setter because it needs the Watcher ability in order to deal a lot of damage, meaning it always has to go last. Meaning if you set up Bane of Haste and you go first, it's not dealing any damage. You're not going to get any damage boosting abilities, and it just struggles to deal any damage. The only way for a knockout to deal any damage is if you can actually activate its Rageful plushie, because not even one Shadow Box is enough in order to get Okos. But if you are able to get the Rageful plushie off, Brawler Ancient Stab with water coverage is probably some of the best offensive pressure in the entire game. And it can get a late game sweep if there are any Loomians that are immune to Vital Jab. So it can pop off in very specific situations, but you need everything to go right in order for a knockout to pop off. And that's why it is number 7 on the list, but it isn't any lower because, like I said, if you can get the Rageful plushie boost, this thing can clean up if you're not careful, because this thing is actually pretty bulky, and its defensive typing, despite being bad, actually synergizes well with its good bulk, meaning it gives it more chances to activate its Rageful plushie. And that's why Knockout is number 7 on this list. Number 6 on this list is going to be Luxor, the Light-type rat. Has a health stat of 75, energy stat of 84, range attack stat of 106, and a speed stat of 101. The thing that's funny, that might be the highest range attack stat out of any Loomian on this list. So this is one of the Loomians that I think hits hardest. The problem with Luxor is that its main moves are Light type and Fire type. You don't understand how much of the meta can wall both Light and Fire. Pretty much any Light type can wall Luxor. Not to mention that other Light types have something else to it compared to Luxor. Not to say that Luxor can't do anything, because the Illuminate ability makes it so all your simple type attacks deal more damage, and that boosts moves like Resonate and Raging Howl, which does a lot of damage. Other moves it can run is Scapegoat, High-Pitched Screech, Gamma Pulse, Flash and Flee, Luminous Roar, and Fire Breath. And Illuminate is good. This Loomian can hit very hard. It can set up a hasten as well and get a +1, making Luxor a very good late game cleaner, and it can be very dangerous if you don't have a team prepared for it. The problem is Luminami, basically. Luminami basically walls Luxor, so that's not great. Meditoad also walls Luxor. Land Torch does, even though it doesn't have any melee defense, so yeah. It's not that bulky, but it can still live Luxor. Pretty much any light type can. And while Luxor does have Flash and Flea, a plant type can switch in. Even Lashent can live a petrifying Fire Breath, which is kind of funny because Lashent is kind of a nightmare. And even though it does have Fire Breath to hit Lashent for quite effective damage, it can always live at least 1, which is kind of funny. But it can be good, it can be dangerous, and it does hit very hard. If you have it in the right situation, it might be able to clean up a late game cleanup. But other than that, there's really no other reason to use Luxor when you could use something like, I don't know, Land Torch, Luminami, Shyenta. There's just other light types that are better to use compared to Luxor. And if you want another light type that can do the same thing, Teclipse. Teclipse is right there as well. And that's why Luxor is on this list. But it does narrowly avoid the top 5 because, you know, it does hit pretty hard and it does have haste and setup, making it very dangerous in the late game. So yeah, that's why Luxor is number 6 on this list. We have reached our top 5 now, and number 5 on this list is going to be Nontelect, the Mind Ancient type. Its base stats don't seem too bad on paper. 106 health, 82 energy, 74 melee defense, 105 ranged attack, 115 ranged defense, and 34 speed. This is basically similar stats to Knockout, but Nontelect does have a useful tool in the Wise ability. When using a move that is not very effective against your target, utilize other advantages to double the power of that move, meaning that resistant hits are neutral hits. Not to mention that this is one of the few Bane of Haste sweepers that could set up Bane of Haste for itself, giving it a niche unlike any other Bane of Haste sweeper in the game, meaning that's really huge for Nontelect. The biggest problems with Nontelect is that it gets outclassed by Bane of Haste Bywarn. You know how a lot of people consider Bywarn one of the worst Loomians in the game? This Loomian gets outclassed by Bywarn under Bane of Haste. The reason why it does is because it lacks Totobite stats. That's another reason why Knockout's on the list as well, but it's more critical in Nontelect because even though Nontelect has more ranged attack than Bywarn, Bywarn can run very smart in the do or die ability. And while Wise can be good for the not very effective hits, it's not great for neutral matchups, when do or die just boosts Bywarn's ranged attack, making it hit a lot harder. It's brutal. It does have some good moves as well. Like, I mean, Splitting Headache, 140 base power Splitting Headache does hit pretty hard, but it doesn't have any other multipliers boosting it. It can't run Specialty Goggles because it needs a status condition. Mind Drain simply does not hit hard enough. Peace of Mind setup waste a Bane of Haste turn, and while Energy Break and Tsunami can hit other Loomians, it's not going to do as much compared to Splitting Headache. You need a setup in order for Nontelect to do enough damage, and even then, a +1 Splitting Headache does not OHKO a Zulong. So it's still really weak to begin with. Again, the only advantage it has is that it could set Bane of Haste for itself. But other than that, there's no reason to use Nontelect when you could use other Bane of Haste sweepers, or just use Bywarn and use something like Infernix to set up Bane of Haste. So that's why Nontelect is on this list, despite having a nice niche and a nice ability. Although number 5 for Nontelect is a lot better than number 1. So honestly, I think Nontelect will take that. Number 4 on this list is going to be Ragon, the Thief Loomian, the Burglar Loomian. Now, this Loomian does have a unique niche, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Its base stats are absolute trash. 95 health, 80 energy, 100 melee attack, 95 melee defense, and 90 speed. I can't tell you how garbage these base stats are. Not to mention that base Dark, while a solid offensive typing, Ragon does not hit hard enough, and it doesn't have that good coverage moves. I mean, it has Rogue Assault. That's good. It has Bag of Tricks, Gnarly Gash, Slapdown. Slapdown utility is good. But it does have one thing that keeps it out of the top 3. Despite being a garbage Loomian, it has Ability Thief. You steal the ability of your target when you use a move that makes contact with them. This ability can be an absolute game changer sometimes. If you take a critical ability like Ace, Petrifying, or Appetite, even though Appetite is bad, this Loomian can be very dangerous. Especially when you combine moves like Barter, Barbs, Provoke, and Chase Down. Quick Pounce and Icicle Traps as well. This Loomian can be very dangerous. It could steal an ability, it could slap down an item as well, and it could set up hazards, being a very good support Loomian. It does give Ragon a niche. The problem is that Ability Thief is so hard to play with. And also, Chase Down does not work with Ability Thief, meaning that you can't trap Loomians in and steal critical ability. The play is always going to be down to the opposing player if they want to stay in or not. And that is critical, because if Chase Down was able to steal abilities, that's a game changer. That would get Ragon out of the bottom 10 altogether. But right now, as it is, the opposing player can always switch out and avoid the Ragon trap. Not to mention that there are just other support Loomians that do better, there are other Barb Setters that are better, and there are always other niche Loomians that do better. Like, why use Ragon as a support Loomian when you could use Wiki with Herbal Remedy, or Lumello and place Barbs? Like, there's just so many better options compared to Ragon, and that's why it is number 4 in the list, despite having a very powerful ability. But it might be good that Ragon is not a good Loomian, because imagine if Ability Thief was able to work with Chase Down. Oh God, that would be dangerous. So let's just be happy that it is number 4 on the list right now, and let's just accept it from there. Let's head into the top 3. Number 3 on this list is going to be another Dark type in Savvice. Oh my God, Savvice might be one of the worst Loomians, and probably one of the most poorly designed Loomians as well. I mean, 83 health, 83 energy, 102 melee attack, 103 melee defense, and 88 speed. It's one of those Loomians that just does not know what it wants to be. As an offensive Loomian, it gets outclassed by both Cramboss and Aklos. And as a defensive Loomian, it gets outclassed by Loomians like Borealis and Wobbulis. So, yeah, I think it would be a better Loomian if it lost 20 melee defense and put that in its melee attack, so it has 122 melee attack. And the puncture ability can be very good in certain situations, but it's not good on a Loomian that only has 102 melee attack, which cannot boost any of its attack from any other modifiers. Like, the only other modifiers you can gain is Very Brawny Gloves, and even then, you want Drudge in order to outspeed stuff, because 88 speed is simply too slow. It does have some good moves. I mean, its secret ability, Toxic Sack, can be very annoying sometimes. I mean, Redemptor Strike, Poison, Provoke, Spike Rush, Slumber, Harrow, Vice Dolls, Venom Slash, Final Ruse, and Mega Chomp. They're all good moves. It's good move pool, but its typing is horrible. It's quad weak to Fire, while also being weak to Light, Bug, Metal, and Brawler, making it terrible defensively, but also very bad offensively as well. Can't really hit many Loomians, and it doesn't help that there are other Loomians that outclass it, like Aklos and Cramboss, like I said earlier. Savvice is bad. There's nothing else to say about that. But the reason why it avoids the top 2 is because if you do get a Drudge or 2 up, it can be solid in the late game. Not good, not great, but it can be solid. And like I said, its secret ability where attacking could potentially cause poisons with Redemptor Strike can be dangerous sometimes. Not to mention that it does have good coverage. I mean, Ice Dark Stab with Spirit Toxic coverage is actually pretty good in this meta. So, that does save Savvice from being any lower on the list, as it belongs in the number 3 spot. Number 2 on this list is going to be a Loomian that we're very familiar with on these videos, and it's Cinnamoff. Cinnamoff has gotten a redesign, and honestly, it looks uglier than it did before. Yeah, just kind of shows how trash it is, that even its redesign sucks. But let's head into the base stats. 70 HP, 80 energy, 85 melee defense isn't bad, and 99 range defense isn't bad either. But 98 ranged attack with 88 speed? Really? It's top stat, and it's in its range defense, which if you combine that with its HP, it doesn't do enough. It does have a lot of good moves. Jetstream, it has all the Spore moves, Life Drain, Feral Blast, Poison, Gust, Life Drain, Pester, Counter Poison, Mystic Breeze, so it does have some good moves. But the problem is none of those moves are able to hit any of the pesky metal types, so metal types will always be a problem versus Cinnamoff. The Flutter ability is nice, making it immune to Icicle traps, but that's the only way Flutter helps, and all its other abilities are just flat-out garbage. It does have 2 setup moves. It has Hasten and Magnify. With Magnify, it actually does hit hard enough to be a decent late-game cleaner. The problem is you're not fast enough, because 88 speed is simply way too slow. And for Cinnamoff, since its ranged attack is very lackluster, you're forced to run very smart. So, yeah. You're going to get outsped by a lot of stuff with Magnify. But what happens if you run Hasten? Well, you outspeed everything now, but you just simply don't hit hard enough. You will never OHKO Loomians with a super effective hit at +1. That's how weak Cinnamoff is. And that's the reason it is on this list. Not to mention, like I said earlier, its redesign sucks. Its defensive typing also sucks. I mean, being quad weak to ice and weak to electric is horrible. Although it does only have 3 weaknesses, so that is something at least. But yeah, Cinnamoff is garbage. This Loomian has never been good. It will never be good. Even with the stat redistributions, it made this Loomian better, but not that much better. Especially when you compare it to its other bud in Terrafly, where Terrafly went from one of the worst Loomians to one of the best Loomians ever since it got more melee attack and specialty gloves. Cinnamoff, on the other hand, did not get improved at all, and it's still one of the worst PvP Loomians in the game. But thankfully for it, it just avoided number 1. Let's get to that right now. But before we talk about the worst PvP Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy, let's talk about some dishonorable mentions. So the first dishonorable mention is Munchwheel. I wanted to add Munchwheel on the list because, I mean, it's not that good, and it hasn't really had a good meta other than the specialization set, which got nerfed. But Munchwheel has a decent defensive typing. Pure Metal's nice, has 113 melee defense, and Cleanup is a nice move. But it is very inconsistent, but the ability Rev Up is nice, and it has good coverage, so I think it barely avoids the list. The next Loomian I'm talking about is Gargleum. Now, Gargleum by itself is actually decent. I mean, Hover makes it so it's immune to Earth-type attacks, and the Fire and Electric Gargleum can actually be very good. So I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about specifically the Ice-type Gargleum. The Ice-type Gargleum might be one of the worst PvP Loomians of all time. Nothing else to say. Just like in the Sherbot segment, Metal and Ice is the worst defensive typing in all of Loomian Legacy. And if I ranked just the Ice-type Gargleum by itself, it would probably be number 2 on this list. Yes, it would be worse than Cinnamoff, but not quite as bad as number 1. But all the other Gargleums do save Gargleum from being at the bottom 10. Trimposte, a lot of people might be shocked that Trimposte is not on the list, but 130 melee attack is 130 melee attack, and there is a lot of ways to use it. But it does suffer from the same problem as Ventation, as it does get outclassed by Pronsu, Dakuda, and Garlash, so it sucks there. But it does have Bane of Haste, so it can't set up Bane of Haste for itself, and its speed stat is slow, so it can definitely run it, so that's a niche, that's something. Not to mention that Water Bug Brawler is really good offensively, so it barely misses the bottom 10. We have Weaslin. Weaslin has a trader ability, which is very unique, but its Rush Hour can make it a very good suicide lead. It can provoke Gargoleum's speed and then place hazards itself. Also has Slapdown and Driving Spores, which is nice as a hazard lead, but not as good compared to Gargoleum's speed and other hazard leads. Cosmeleon, one of the worst roamers in the game. I would even consider it maybe worse than Gargoleum base, but it is unique because adaptability makes it so it can actually change its type in the weather, which no other Loomian in the game can, so it makes Cosmeleon really unique, and it does have very good bulk. And the ability of it changing its type due to the weather is unique, which is just enough for it to escape the bottom 10. Festifer, very good defensive Loomian, not a good offensive or defensive typing at all, but has Regift, which is a really good ability, and also Ice Hammer Earthquake hits everything in the game. So that's good. Festifer is good enough to not be in the bottom 10. In this Loomian, a lot of people might be shocked that's not on the list. Bywarn. Bywarn, if it wasn't for a recent showcase video, Bywarn would be in the top 3 easily. It had no usable sets and singles, but it was always a good doubles Loomian. But even without its doubles ability, I finally found an ability that might actually make Bywarn usable. Like I said in the Nontelect segment, if you run very smart, do or die with Stab Splitting Headache, this thing can actually hit very hard, as it also has covered moves like Pester to hit Lashent, and Nature's Force to hit Loomians like Tyrex. Meaning that Bywarn actually has a good niche under Bane of Haste, which, how it did in that showcase video was enough to keep it off this list. I know it's crazy, but if y'all really want to hear my true opinions about Bywarn, just watch that Bywarn video I made yesterday. I'll leave it in a link in the description below, because it honestly popped off. Now, let's head to the #1 worst PvP Loomian in the entire game. The worst Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy is Hydrofraud. I'm not even going to call it by its real name, because that's how bad this Loomian is. Let's look at its stats. 80 health, 85 energy. Both of its attack stats are 97. This is one of the only Loomians on this list that could potentially be a mixed attacker. But it's horrible at both as a melee and ranged attacker. Its bulk is also garbage. The only good thing with Hydrolin, this is the only positive, 107 speed. 107 speed is actually really fast, but it's also not its saving grace. Because 107 speed, while fast, it doesn't outspeed critical threats like Very Nimble Snagoop, Very Nimble Ronsador, and Very Nimble Shyenta. All 3 of those Loomians are meta threats that can OHKO Hydrolin. The only way to keep Hydrolin alive for more than one hit is to use a clutch plushie. But if you use a clutch plushie, you just simply don't deal enough damage. You can run very nimble, but you just don't hit hard enough. You can run very brawny, but you're not fast enough. Very smart, still not fast enough. You can use it in Banana Split, but let's look at the moves it works with. Hydro Slash and Thistle Slash. Amazing moves. 70 base power. When you combine that with Luxor, though, it does give Hydrolin a 50% chance to critical hit. And with the critical hit boost, it can actually hit pretty hard. But even then, most of the time, it's not even enough to get an OHKO on a neutral hit. And there are times where it's a +1 Thistle Slash, very brawny, does 40% to a non-heavy armor Surkame. Does have some setup moves and power focus, which is good because it does boost Airblade, but water stab with plant air coverage is not good enough. It doesn't hit everything for super effective damage. In fact, there's a lot of Loomians that can wall that. It does have other moves like Slash, Bulk Up, Palm, Plunge, Teardown. I guess Teardown could be decent. Tribute? I mean, that's the best move because having Hydrolin dead is probably the best thing you can ever do. And its most powerful move in its move kit is Body Slam. Yes, I know Tsunami is also 90 base power, but it uses more energy, so it's not the best move. Body Slam is 90 base power is its strongest move, with 97 attack stats. There's no contest. This is one of those, this is by far the worst Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy. Just by having a Hydrolin on your team makes your team infinitely worse. And that's why it's #1 on this list. And here it is, Hydrolin, the worst PvP Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy. Yes, I did have to rally a new one after I discarded my old one. So, yeah, that did take a little bit, but I got one again. I kind of want to delete it, but I don't want to make that mistake again. I'm not as angry as I did in that other Hydrolin video, don't worry. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this top 10 PvP worst PvP Loomians list. If there are some other bad Loomians that I missed, please tell me in the comments below. And if y'all want to participate in the Alpha Xmas Odoyaga giveaway, just comment Alpha Xmas Odoyaga in the comments below, and I will give y'all a number. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see y'all all later. Bye-bye!